you're going in, investing every dime you have, zero savings, zero income coming into the household, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself and you're setting yourself up for potentially failure if you have no money, because now you're going to start making the wrong decisions in order to bring in revenue to pay those bills. So get your finances in order. I talk to so many people that have no idea net worth, liquidity. I go, let's go, down the list and make sure people don't know you can utilize potentially retirement, depending if it's qualified or not. So we talk about that. It's a potential option. So, get all that information in order. What's your why? What does the ideal business look like?
Welcome to Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help manufacturing executives command the front and win the floor. I'm Richard Walsh, creator of the Sharpened Impact methodology, and I spent decades helping leaders transform frontline teams, unlock hidden profit, and capture capacity they didn't even know they had. If you want to see where your leadership gaps are costing you and how to fix them, head over to grittolead.com and run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator today. Let's sharpen your edge and get started. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast, with another incredible guest. Yes, I've got Giuseppe Grammatico in the house. Giuseppe. No one knows Giuseppe as well as Giuseppe. So Giuseppe, I need the backstory. Give it to us, bring us up to speed, and let's get in the conversation.
Awesome, Richard. Well, I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on the show, and I'm excited. Giuseppe Grammatico, a mouthful. My friends call me G. And born and raised in New Jersey, grew up in a family the restaurant business. We owned an Italian restaurant for close to actually 40 years, so almost 40 years. And that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. Married, 2 kids. I got one going to college, which is kind of crazy. And I was my journey, born and raised in Jersey, didn't like my job and I wanted something else. And that's been my lifelong journey of kind of figuring out what was next. And was able to leave Wall Street, which was a great career, great paying job, and hire myself and purchase and invest in my first franchise in 2007. But I've been self-employed over 20 years with side businesses and things like that. So, and now kind of fast forward today, I help people empower themselves into owning a business. A lot of military veterans, a lot of corporate executives looking for the next step. So that's what really excites me, and it's been my passion project, is to help 1,000 families break free of the corporate trap and hire themselves and own a business.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it is. There's a lot of power in entrepreneurship, as we know, right? I've been 35 plus years doing that stuff myself. I am officially unemployable.
Yes.
I have been. Well, I've probably been that since the beginning. I don't know if I never made it past like a year anywhere, because then they wouldn't let me run the business. So I had to go. But that's really great. So let's kind of dive into how you got into it. You want to do this, but what really led you to helping people? Is it from a coaching standpoint? Are you helping them find the actual business, whether it's a franchise or some other aspect to get launched? Let's get into the details of that. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of information out there. The internet, we had the internet 20 years ago, but there's so much information and people don't know where to start. They interviewed, I forget how many thousands of people. They said 75% had thought about owning a business. So they said, well, why didn't you, to that group, why didn't you move forward? And 75% of that group said they didn't know where to start, which really is nuts when you think about the amount of information out there. So I went through the journey. I had worked with a coach. I kind of dissected the process to see, I didn't know that there was a way to fund my franchise with retirement. That was never brought up to me. So I said, how can I make this journey a lot simpler in finding that right franchise? But more importantly than finding the right franchise is figure out if entrepreneurship is even the right fit. There's this order. People like to jump in and look at the hot franchises when they probably have no business in owning a franchise, or maybe in any business. As you mentioned, you're unemployable. Maybe it's the opposite for other people, where maybe they think the grass is always greener. So we always start from the very, very beginning. Where are your pain points? What are you looking to achieve? And is a business the right vehicle? And if it is, what vehicle, what specific business? Is it a startup? Is it a franchise? So we really dissect and figure out where you're at, where you want to be. Makes a big difference. And then we figure out, what those vehicles are. And I think if you work it that way and kind of reverse engineer it and say, this is what I want, who can help me get there, and and the how, which we figure out afterwards, and maybe that's the actual franchise business model. I think it's a lot more efficient and it causes a lot less anxiety throughout the entire process.
Yeah, I think too, Giuseppe, is when we think about it, when I work with people and they haven't, they don't have the reason they don't know where to start. A lot of times, obviously, you're not, and this is just indicative of the entire kind of where our country's at. We'll go into the public school system and everything else, all the government schools. You look at that, and no one is being encouraged to be an entrepreneur.
Correct.
Okay, the whole thing was the whole school was designed to be a cog in a wheel, working for whatever, right? Go working for the Industrial Revolution. Then we go all the way back to there. So you're starting it like kind of a negative with these people. Then they get, oh yeah, own a business. Look at this guy's making a lot of money. They don't know anything about what's really happening with those businesses, right?
Yeah.
They're just seeing the stuff on the front. They don't understand what goes on in the back. So I think it's really good that you take them through that kind of that reverse engineer process, because when people don't, because a lot of them don't understand, and you said it, they don't understand what the outcome is
Mhm.
of owning a business. They really don't. They just think like, well, what do you think you're going to do? Are you going to do it forever? Is it a 10-year thing? Is it a 20-year thing? Is it, succession? What are you doing? So we kind of got to
Right.
go through that, right? Kind of really figure out where they're at, because they have this thing in their head. And if they don't get it out and on paper, like it's just kind of foggy.
It is, and I think I heard this on a podcast, and I wish I can give credit to the person. And it's I gotta do a search this weekend because I want to actually post this on my feed. But a lot of people don't know how to measure things, right? We measure things by number. So it's like, okay, I own the business and I got to make $1 million a year. Why? Well, that's a whole nother conversation, but
Mhm.
they measure things by number. But what about time freedom? What about, we all have 24 hours in a day. So what about controlling your time? I can say from the age of 4 to 18, I never missed one of my son's soccer games. I even became a soccer coach. That to me is true freedom. That to me is true success. But how do you monetize that? How do you put a number to that? So people look at the cars, the houses, and things like that, which is really silly if you read the
Yep.
Millionaire Next Door. So it's so there's a lot there, and then you get things like it's also a mindset shift. It's things like, well, how quickly can I replace my income, my W-2 job, or how quick can I sell this thing for $1 million? There's quickness, this kind of instant gratification.
Right.
And I go, you're building something here. You're building something. It's creating time freedom, financial freedom. It's probably not going to create those freedoms initially, but Dan Sullivan talks about 5 freedoms, and those are two of the top 5 freedoms from owning a business. But it takes time. What does this look like afterwards? Kind of lay it all out. And I think once you change the mindset, change the perspective a little bit, it opens up the doors to like, yeah, you know what? Maybe this is for me, or maybe I want to dip my toe into entrepreneurship and keep my job the first year while creating this, what I call a safety net, and then eventually dive in full time. So it's really this mindset shift. The other thing is a business is risky and a job isn't. And that's, really silly if you're still thinking that way. Your job is absolutely risky. You are
Yes.
not controlling anything in the process. You're not controlling the company. I work for the one of the largest financial institutions in the world. The stockholders were voting. I mean, you had so many layers on top of my 20 bosses above me. So, owning a business, there's definitely a risk, 100%, but you're controlling it. You're calling the shots. You're not waiting to get a decision approved by 50 managers that are above you. So, it's definitely a mindset shift.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't get that. But it is the difficulty with it, like you said, there's this time investment in the
Mm,
beginning. I always tell people, I said one of the problems with a lot of business owners, I'll tie this into exactly what you're saying, is they get into business, okay, and guess what? You're going to work really hard. You're going to put in a lot of hours. You're going to wear 9 hats. You're going to do everything in the business, right, to get it off the ground. You got to get this thing off the launch pad, and that's normal. That's to be expected. So
right.
let's say it's the first 2 years at least. The problem is, next thing you know, 10 years goes by and you've repeated the first 2 years 5 times. That's the hamster wheel. That's what we call the owner prison, right?
Right.
So now, again, this goes back to when you're talking about reverse engineer. What's the outcome? What are you actually looking to do if you don't start with that proverbial end in mind? Okay, and then reverse engineer from there. And that's how long and how much. If you don't start with that type of exit strategy from the beginning, you're going to be lost. You're going to be stuck on that hamster wheel, and you're not going to understand because you don't really have a clear path. You
Right.
really, you're only going as far as you can see.
Right.
And
That's
trust me, that
exactly
isn't
it.
very far. That's not really
Right.
far.
I agree, and that's exactly it. You have something to aim for, and I agree 100%. It's not about working a job and making an extra 5 or 10% a year. I always when I coach people and I go, this is just advice that I was living by, and I pass it along to you. But use the first year, especially with a franchise. A franchise, you have an unfair advantage. You can launch a
Right.
business. I have brands that can launch in 2 to 4 weeks out of training. That's how quickly you can get up with all the systems, everything in place. Um, you know, are you expecting to make profit right away? Absolutely not. It takes time, but use that first year as the builder year. You use that first year to get the profits, reinvest in more marketing, the right employees, pay them well, treat them well, and then you grow exponentially from there. Get the systems in place so that not only are you making a profit, but you're also increasing enterprise, right, value of the business, and also maybe taking that back seat to kind of replace yourself. Have the general manager in place if that's something you're comfortable with, and those key employees in place so that those systems are created. You don't have to be in the business 60 hours a week.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point right there. Here's what I think a lot of people don't do, Giuseppe, is they don't go, how fast can I replace myself?
Mm-hmm.
They never think that way. Like you just said, a GM, how quick can I get a GM in here? Because I'm the GM.
Right.
And, general manager means I got to do everything pretty much, right? And you got to do all this stuff. Like people aren't thinking that way. I've noticed over years and years of working people and coaching people myself is like, we need to prioritize that. Kind of goes back to profit first and all those things you hear
Yes.
Mike Miklowitz and things like
Yep.
that. Like the owners never paying themselves or paying everyone else and doing that whole thing. But really, like, how quickly can I replace myself? If you can
That's
figure that out, because that's that time freedom thing. Okay. Not only is it time freedom, but it also gives you a chance, what we call working on our 5%. That's 5% of the business only you can do as that owner. You got the vision, you got the drive, you got the growth. You understand that. You need to be focused on that, but you can't when you're mired in the day to day. So that GM, someone to kind of replace that. They're not replacing you, they're
right.
replacing that position. And people, once they get their head around that, because a lot of people can't really grab that concept, they think they're being like pushed out. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you should take 5 minutes and I'll figure this out for you, because I'll figure this out, because that's not what you're doing. You're trying to get to a place where you can truly help those who work with you and grow the business. But you can't do that when you're stuck in the day to day.
Absolutely. And profit first was a game changer for me. I wish I came across it sooner, but I work a good friend of mine. He's a coach, Rocky Lalvani, and we talk all the time.
I know Rocky.
His
I know Rocky.
birthday's today, so happy birthday, Rocky,
Happy
if you're
birthday,
listening.
Rocky. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, I
I
know
don't
him
know how
too.
old you are, Rocky, but you're a few years above me. But we talk about profit first, and he's like, "Well, how do you budget?" And I said, "I don't know. I have this number that was just put in my head, and that's my budget." And he's like, "Well, what are the percentages?" And I said, "You know what? I have no idea." So he kind of walked me through the whole system, and that makes a huge difference, because the one thing I learned early on is that a few years into my business, I had someone, a business broker, a traditional business broker, approach me, and they saw the numbers and they were blown away. And they're like, "Well, we can get you a three multiple easily." So, the buyers started coming in, and they said, "Wow, you're earning this much in profit, 3x. We'll pay that, all day long. What's your role in the business?" And this is a few years into the business. And when they heard that I was working all these
Yeah.
hours, they're like,
Yeah.
"Wait a second, we want to buy a business,
Right.
replace you with a general manager. So this net income, this EBITDA, whatever you want, seller discretionary
Yeah.
earning that you're showing, we're going to cut it in half because we have to replace
Yeah.
you in the business. You're working too many hours." And that hit me hard. I'm like, I didn't realize that's how a business was. And again, this is going to vary based off the buyer. So we took a back seat, and from there, I'm like, what are all the things I have to take off my plate so that my general manager can kind of handle it? So I'm not putting in all these hours. I'm putting in less and less hours. That was my wake up call, along with profit first years later, where it's like, how do I budget things? You need to pay yourself, because ultimately in a business, you're always going to find ways to spend money on, oh,
Yep.
well, throw a billboard, why not? Or a TV ad. You got to pay yourself first, and then, treat the business like, I'm going to keep it at 20% revenue and I'm not going to exceed that. So profit first was a game changer in how I reviewed financials.
Yeah, it's great. And that's the big takeaway here is really understanding that who you are in the business, right? That they cut they cut the multiple in half.
Yeah.
Okay. They're like, because no one, I always tell people, go, here's your ideal exchange when you're going to sell the business. Someone comes, you say, hey, I'm going to do this for 10 years. I'm going to want 10 million when I get out. And okay, 10 years comes, someone comes in, maybe you get your 10 million, maybe you're a good negotiator, you get 10.5, whatever it is. They give you a check, you shake hands, you're out, they're in, no one knows the business sold. Okay. Because they don't have to do everything in the business. Now they may
Right.
tweak and change as they go, but that's your ideal exchange you're looking for. Right. And like you said, you could, if you had a GM at that time, you would have got that triple.
Right.
Right.
At the time.
So
Right. Yeah.
exactly. Right. So it's, so
Right.
this is what people need to remember. Like you're always looking to replace yourself. So I always tell people there's three things in business. You want to automate, you want to delegate, and you want to eliminate. And the eliminate part, I'm
Mm,
like, it's you. Okay, you're trying to eliminate you from all this day-to-day
right.
stuff and get out of there because that's where the money is. That's what they don't understand. It feels like you're working, busting your tail, you are making good income, right? You've got great profit on the books, but what is it if again someone has to step in who
Right.
doesn't want to do that? And there you go with that 50% cut. So that's really good. That's a really good takeaway for people. Do you kind of get into that in the beginning when you're doing kind of your discovery work with people? You do kind of go through that process?
Yeah, I mean, we first, we figure out, okay, what are the goals? So we look at the characteristics of the business, the role being the first thing we talk about. It's the most important thing. Just because, especially in franchising, just because you like the product or service, that has nothing to do with your role. You're not buying a McDonald's to flip burgers. You're not buying a mosquito spraying franchise to go spray people's backyards. You'll notice the roles are very similar. Chamber of Commerce, customer service, reviewing the KPIs, utilizing the entrepreneurial operating system and just making sure all cylinders are firing equally. So there's a lot there. But yes, we talk about that. And is your goal to flip the business in 5 years and retire? Are you creating a legacy where you have a lot more of room to grow this business? So we discuss all that, the investment, what your employees look like, meaning are they W-2? Are they 1099 contractors? Sometimes we have a hybrid approach where the work's being done by contractors and your back office, your sales and customer service are employees. In some cases, believe it or not, we have franchises that run with 0 employees. So there's going to be a different investment. So we also go into investment. The venue, is it a physical location like a gym, or are you running the business from home and offering a water and smoke restoration service? So we look at all that because there's no right or wrongs here. It comes down to preference. It comes down to what's the role, what's the transferable skill set that I'm bringing to the table. Is it a legacy? Is it something I want to maybe flip down the road? If you want to scale it up fast, maybe it's a service, non-brick and mortar business, like something you could run from home, or maybe you need a small office like I did years ago. But yeah, we spent a lot of time, and once we figure out that ideal business, then we hone in on your area to make sure there's availability. So we look at, is there availability? Your market may not be the best market for that
Mhm.
service. And in senior care, if it's a young area and the 75 and older community is really low, that area may not be the ideal area. We may have to look a couple towns over. So there's a lot involved there. We work with a lot of military veterans that they're looking for that transition. They're like, we're okay following systems. They come with a ton of different skill sets, and they want to own that business full time. I think 1 in 5 families we work with have come out of the military. This is an interesting stat. 1 in 6 franchise owners have come out of the military, are veterans. Because why? Because that system is in place for them that they can run with. There's no
That's
recreating
right.
the entire system and the actual franchise itself. So if you're okay following systems and not buying a McDonald's to change the menu, then okay, maybe a franchise could be a good fit. And then I kind of guide them through the process of the due diligence. What questions should they be asking the franchise, or ultimately it's their decision. But I like them to look at a lot of different options so they can compare and contrast what may be the best fit, what they like as the kind of the ideal franchise day. Like what's the average day of a franchisee? What does that look like? Can you see yourself doing that?
Yeah, I think that's really important, Giuseppe, because I think people the ground zero create a business Okay. That you got entrepreneurs. Let's put them at 3%. Okay. You got 3% of people that can be an entrepreneur. Zero to something is like 1.5% of the people who would do that. It's very difficult to go from concept to
It is.
something that's going to thrive. Okay. So there's a real attraction for the franchise system. And that's why you see them everywhere, right? That's why people have, it's what it is. It's repeatable. You get in, there's a system you follow. And you said, you're right. I do the same thing. I'm a Marine myself. I work with a lot of veterans too, and they're on my team, and we're doing all this other stuff because they get how to operate within that,
Right.
right? And here's the beauty: they're taught early. They're 17, 18, 19 years old
Hmm.
learning that. Okay, really good time to instill that, staying inside some lines,
Hmm.
because entrepreneurship can be real kind of vague on the boundaries, and I see that mess up a lot of people
Yeah.
because it's too much opportunity or too much freedom, and they
Right.
don't know how to rein themselves in, and they end up just kind of going flat in 2 to 3 years because
Yes.
they got too much
I
stuff out there. So yeah,
No,
it's
that's and I'll throw something out there for anyone listening in. That's kind of is a franchise better than a startup? The answer is it depends on what you're looking for.
yeah,
It's not what's better, it's what's the right fit for you. So my challenge to you is to look at both. But ultimately, from experience in doing this and franchising almost 20 years, is that some people have actually, what is the opportunity cost of a startup, right? You write the business plan in a Word document, it sits on your laptop 5 or 10 years, you do nothing with it because you don't have that person kind of, getting you to that next step. You may have a business coach, but ultimately, who's creating that entire business for you from scratch? So what I've challenged people and what I've heard is that some people will get into a franchise because it's just too overwhelming. They'll get into a single franchise. It doesn't matter the franchise. There's I think what 4,000 franchises in every industry. They'll learn and say, okay, once I go to training, that franchisor is really urging me to get up and running. Their goals are aligned. As you're making money, they're making money via their royalty. They want you to grow. They want you to pick up more locations or territory. But you're going to learn so much that, you don't learn this stuff in school. I went to grad
right.
school and I wish I just in franchising what I learned my first year was crazy, in just learning about taxes and law and just about everything else and marketing. So when you have that franchise, you're like, you know what? I can apply the things I've learned from the franchise and maybe a non-competing startup, where it's like,
Mhm.
wow, this is how the marketing's done. This is what SEO is. These are the numbers to aim for. These are some contacts I could potentially use to market my startup. So that franchise sometimes is the springboard to get you into that startup. And just because you bought one franchise doesn't mean the next one has to be a franchise. It could be a startup or vice versa. So
Yeah,
that's something really cool. You can really learn a
yeah,
lot and then apply it later.
yeah. I love it. Yeah, it's getting your feet wet.
Mhm.
Getting the basics down. You're right. That's a good thing. Another thing I just thought of as you're talking about that, thinking about the military, a lot of these guys going into franchises. Here's another thing: you're in something with others. You just said it, right? You got a franchisor who's going to promote. They want you to win. Now you have a team mentality, which is what you have in like me in the Corps, right?
Right.
You got your brothers, sisters, whatever. But you got that, and that's a representation of that as well, because you got a bunch of people
Yep.
working towards the same end, right? It's not my own little thing that I created and doing that. So that's why I think it's real attractive to them as well, because there's a camaraderie in there. We all love shared suffering. Okay.
Yes.
And if you're going to get into business, you're going to suffer. I don't care which direction you go, but I'd rather share it with others. Okay. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean you got the franchisor, and on top of that, you have, depending how large the system is, you may have several hundred franchisees
Right.
across the country. You can pick up the phone and speak with them. You have a protected territory, protected market, so you may go in on a marketing campaign or just meet once a month with the local franchise owner. Say, hey, let's compare notes here. You'll have an annual convention for the most part, everyone getting together. The beauty of those conventions, everyone's coming in with different backgrounds. People that have never owned a business, never owned the franchise, coming out of the military. Maybe you have serial entrepreneurs. You have everyone kind of getting together. And that's a mastermind. It's a mastermind that you
Right.
get built into the franchise, which I tell everyone to take advantage of. And here's a little secret. Doesn't help my business, but it's something that people need to realize is that once you get into the system, your growth strategy can be two things. You can acquire your neighboring franchise owners, you're not going to have to pay a broker. You're going to do a direct and just pay a small transfer. Or if that's it's the exit strategy you're aiming for, you may be, that person that gets acquired. So you save a nice broker fee, which is significant, especially if you're growing a, $1 million plus business. So you can grow by acquisition. You can grow by adding territories or adding complementary brands. There's so many ways to grow this business, but you have this built-in support system, this group of everyone kind of cheering each other on as the brand grows. You're getting better economies of scale. You're getting better support. You're getting national accounts. We've seen brands once they hit 50 franchisees, they're opening up national accounts and working with some of the larger retailers out there. So there's so many benefits, and everyone reaps those benefits as the brand grows.
Yeah, it's a lot of advantages.
Yes.
I mean, because it's kind of like when why people get a coach. Okay, we're coaches. We do this
Yep.
stuff like because they've been where you want to go. Okay, and we can help you. And we can time compress. We can save. We can put 10 years into a year. Okay, and
Correct.
save you all those bad mistakes. That's franchising. That's what it is. The system itself, it's done, it's proven, it's duplicatable. I own a gym, same thing. I'm like, well, I think I should franchise this thing. Start looking at it, and I'm talking to people and, bring consultants on. And it's like, okay, well, you got to get to at least three. Okay. They got to see it
Right.
can be done because two is just a fluke. Okay, because you're bopping back and forth, you're still running everything, right? Now three, that's gonna be a little more difficult. Like, so they want to see that ability for something to be duplicatable that they can actually brand and take on from there. Where people, again, like we talked about earlier, can walk in, get set up, run, be successful, and understand their involvement in that. So, yeah, it's really there's so much to it. I think the intricacies of business ownership, of setup from startup to continuing to growth, all those aspects. The beauty of it to me, Giuseppe, is just it's laid out for you. Like it's
Hmm.
literally in a manual. Okay, like you're literally going to walk
That's
through, so you're going to see it, and it's like that alone for the first time owner, that can give you a major boost in confidence because regardless, it's going to be rough. Okay, it's business. It's
mhm.
what it is. You're going to deal with people if you got people and the whole thing, right? But to have that kind of path forward, like we said, now you know the roadmap. And maybe you're going to be a 3 shop owner. Maybe you're going to be a 30 shop owner. Whatever that is, you can see how to do it that because others have already done it.
Yeah. And listen, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to be a lot of work to start. That's all normal. It's part of the process. When you're talking to brands, ask them about the support. I have brands that they'll train you at the home office and then they'll come out for a grand opening at your location, or if it's a service-based business, they'll travel with you and they'll say, you know what, let's get all our training, let's put it together, let's go on a sales call, let's get your first couple of contracts together. Let's sign up your first vendor relationships together. And bonus, let's hire your first employee together. Let's implement everything together. Not all franchises will do that. That's questions. It's kind of like, you don't know what you don't know. And these are the questions you need to be asking so that if you're looking at five home service franchise, maybe they're all painting, which is the one that truly stands out support wise, that's really going to get me up and running because you learn a lot at the home office and training, and then you kind of forget it, or you're like, well, what do I do first, or how do I apply it? Sometimes it really, in my opinion, makes a big difference if the franchisor is traveling with you and you're assigned that coach that's traveling with you in the field. So, learning and then the actual implementation is a big plus. And just go in thinking 4,000 brands. Not every brand is first off available in your market. Not every brand is going to be the best fit based off of what you're looking for. Just a investment range alone is going to cut back on brands. And then you're going to look for the brands that truly stand out. And it may be in an industry, dog waste removal. Well, dog waste removal, if you look at what that truly is it's a repeatable high-tech business where you're not going into the yards, but it's a high technology business that hires individuals to go out and do the work. It's reoccurring. It's really a marketing and sales engine that happens to be in that space. So really dissect the business, but hone in on the tech. Are we using AI? A lot of companies are reinvesting millions of dollars back into AI. And what does that support? Not just initially, but the ongoing support a year from now. What does that look like? Franchisor is going to give you input. Equally as important, ask the franchisees. If you're going to buy a Dunkin' Donuts franchise, you're going to
Yeah.
maybe talk to the local franchisee. You're going to do the same thing with any other business you're looking at. Give me your feedback. Give me the good. Give me the bad. If there is bad, was that issue resolved? and talk to multiple people, right? Talk to people that have done it, the veterans that have been doing it 5 years, the people that have under a year under their belts, and everyone in between. So that's probably some of the best advice I can give to anyone looking at a
Yeah,
franchise.
that's really really good. It's important because it's a huge undertaking, regardless if it's a $50,000 investment or a $500,000
Yep.
investment or $5 million investment. I mean, it's all you got to do the same due diligence. And like you've talked a lot. There's a lot of points that you've hit already, Giuseppe, and I love it because again, it's so easy to say I want to have my own business. Okay, it's easy, but there's a lot to it. And the question you tell with a statement, you say, well, you know why everyone doesn't run their own business because it ain't
Yep.
that easy, and why so many fail in the first 5 years, right? I mean, it's a huge number. I used to give this presentation. I'd show them. I said, well, in the first 5 years, someone starting a business, there's a 97% failure rate. That's the average, 97%. I said, so then I
That's
have a little
crazy.
slide of these guys with a boat on their head running. These Navy SEAL guys.
Mhm.
I go, you got a better chance becoming a Navy SEAL than you do succeeding at your
Wow.
business. So
That's
let's think about
scary.
this, okay? So, but then it's like, but if you get the right help and you go, guys like you, Giuseppe, go through something that has a proven process. If you want to limit, I mean, I've done, I've been on both sides of the fence here. Love starting my own thing, love growing it. I'm in the process of that now, doing a whole new huge thing I'm doing, but
Mhm.
it's not for everybody. It
Agreed.
is just, it is grueling, right? And that system is like, get in there. If you have the energy, regardless of which side you're on, you need energy for this. Okay. You need your health. You need your energy. You need mental clarity, right? There's a lot to this to jump in. And maybe this isn't relevant to everybody, but I will tell you from so much time in the game that your level of health and fitness to me is like really critical for being a strong entrepreneur. You're leading people, you're leading everybody, you're the top, you're the owner of this, and you're a
Yep.
franchise leading everybody, and you gotta have that energy, you gotta have that ability, that clarity to take those guys with you, because people, and I'd love to talk to you about this, people in a franchise are the most difficult thing. I remember years ago, McDonald's, the master of systems, right? Everything in there, you know what they couldn't do? Get the people to work in the system. Okay. So it was,
That's a big yes. That's one we're just talking about that a major requirement. Absolutely. Yep.
yeah, it's really important to understand that. I
Mhm.
think that's one of those elements that people they don't know because they've only been an employee.
Right.
It's like, well, I always tell my kids, like, no, you're going to go work for a whatever, a Culver's. They all work there. You're going
Mhm.
to do this. You're going to go work at some really not so fun jobs to see what it's like to be on that side. I want you all to be entrepreneurs if that's your thing. If it's not, totally okay. But you really need to get inside a business and spend the time schlepping, mopping the floor, doing it, working the window, whatever that is. Like, get to know that. Okay. Just put in a few years. My kids, I got them all working like 14, 13. Well, one kid started at 9. He's like working, making
I'm
money.
just
But
saying we own the restaurant, so I started at a
yeah,
young age. So
right, right. Yeah, I got one son. Yeah, he started at 9, making money since 9. He's 18 now. The kid's got almost 10 years
work
of
experience.
earning. I mean, so he's valuable. Okay, so but yeah, once they get that, they have that understanding. They
Yeah.
also can look at that whole picture and go, yeah, I don't want to run this. I mean, you take like a Culver's, a fest where you've got 20 people working there, and it's all, you got seniors and you got high school kids, and you got, I always say, they got middle-aged managers
Mhm.
who just yell at people. Just frustrated because one has no experience, the other ones just have a lot
Right.
and they don't care. Okay, they're just trying to get out of the house. So that's
But
the motto,
but you
though.
nailed it. Experience is it's it. Go through it. When I owned my business, I did everything. There was no shame. I did every single task. I wanted to get a better appreciation of the business, and that way you're like, okay, I understand what my employees are going through. It's just it's absolutely normal. But as you mentioned, with entrepreneurship, it's tough. So you got to have a reason why you're doing it. That's the why. Mine was time freedom. We owned the restaurant. We never saw dad
Right.
unless we worked at the restaurant. So I said, my why was stronger than anything else because what's going to happen is it's going to be cyclical. If I can speak today,
Mhm.
you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, right? The economy, that's the stuff we can't control. But maybe you don't have the growth. Maybe there was a drop in revenue, drop in profitability, and you get down on yourself. It's that reminder to get you past that and say, okay, you know what? It was a down year. We're going to pivot. We're going to make some shifts. When I started in '07, '08 was a economy went
Yeah.
down the toilet. We
Yep.
double down on industries we service like healthcare because those are industries that we're still thriving, right? You still need surgeries and dialysis and everything else. So we maintain properties in the healthcare space. So, you pivot, you shift. You don't just say, well, the economy's down and you put your hands up.
Right.
You're going to go through it. You're not going to give up. You're also, let's be honest, you need money. You need to have some type of savings if times are tough, if the investment is like in franchising, there's no exact number, there's a range just in case the business is more money to the build out's more money, or I don't know, it just took a little bit longer to get up and running, or you went a little bit more aggressive on the marketing. You got to have that cushion. If you're leaving your job, who is paying your mortgage? Who's paying your student loans? Who's paying for food? So you have to factor all that in and have that cushion. If you're going in, investing every dime you have, zero savings, zero income coming into the household, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself and you're setting yourself up for potentially failure if you have no money, because now you're going to start making the wrong decisions in order to bring in revenue to pay those bills. So get your finances in order. I talk to so many people that have no idea net worth, liquidity. I go, let's go down the list and make sure people don't know you can utilize potentially retirement depending if it's qualified or not. So we talk about that as a potential option. So, get all that information in order. What's your why? What does the ideal business look like? And get your financials. If you put those three together, that's a really strong foundation. And then we figure out from there what are the different avenues that you would enjoy exploring.
Yeah, I really like that you're getting into that aspect of it because I think that's the unknown. And when people get and it a lot of guys are selling franchises or whatever they're doing, and they kind of leave that in the dark because they're looking to make the sale. So you're hearing all the good stuff, you're hearing the margin, the growth, what these other people are doing, but they're not really walking you through the day to day, the step to step. What does this really take? It does it really fit? You know, what I mean, your personality. You know, because that's such a big factor. I remember, I think it's Title Boxing Club.
Hmm.
Title Boxing, they have a franchise, you know, kind of the boxing. Now I'm a boxer, but um, I watched it. I watched it grow, and I remember I was in Chicago, and I was looking to open a gym, another gym, like down the street. I'm like, well, there's a Title Box. Let me go in there. So I just walk in there when I'm chatting. All of a sudden, the owner happened to be there. He owns a couple of them, and we got talking on different things, like who's coming. I go. Let me ask you. I go, what's the attrition rate? He goes, oh yeah, it's probably like 4 months, 5 months. I'm going,
Oh,
what?
wow.
Like he said, like 6 months tops. You know, these guys get a lot of turnover. He's
Mm-hmm.
not. We're talking in Lincoln Park.
Right.
Okay, now you're talking high end area, beautiful, dense. But I'm like, well, do you? Because I know how they train. I go, this stuff's fun for a short period of time. Now, I've been hitting the bag hard for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like I haven't stopped because I'm a lunatic.
Right.
Okay, but the average person is not going to go through these kind of workouts day in and day out. Eventually, it's like you got to break this up. Man, I love you got 50 heavy bags here, but dude, you got to start adding some other stuff. So he's like, yeah, I'm really kind of not understanding the attrition rate here. You know, and this is not the first club. You know, these are a lot of these are out there, but
Mm-hmm.
you got to look at aspects like that. You know, and that's like you said, go do your due diligence, talk to other owners. Now, I wasn't looking to open one of those clubs. I was going to open up a different thing right down the
Right.
road. But it was really interesting to hear that and see that, right? And go, oh, that's attrition is a thing, and that could be any business. You know, you and like you mentioned, what if you open your store and a month later you got a high end competition opens up next to you, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
they're really good, and you're like, well, you don't throw your hands up. It's time to go to war. That's all I say. It's
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, competition. I mean, competition isn't a bad thing, right? That means that there's
right,
demand in the business, and if you have a brick and mortar location like boxing or whatever, the
right,
gym, you can only fit so many members, right? You kind of figured out what's my break even, hypothetically, 50 members, but I can fit a total of 150. So that's what you're looking to capture in that market. Can I get 150 members? What's the average attrition rate? Okay, and then I have to bring on just say 5 new members a month because I'm losing five. We're just making
right,
up numbers here. So,
right, right,
and it's like, well, how much, what can the doing some local analysis. What can the community withstand? If another gym, those are things to think
right.
about. We don't know if that will happen, obviously, or maybe you have the inside scoop. But yeah, you got to do, what are the things that are going to make us different? And yes, maybe it's a modality that it's like, all right, well, what else do you got? I'm getting burnt out of,
Yep.
rowing or boxing or whatever the modality is. So those are things to absolutely always think about. Service-based businesses, you tend to have less restriction. It's more of, I got this market of 100,000 people, and we're offering painting service, we're offering cleaning. It's a lot of it's reoccurring touch-ups once a month, warranty work, that kind of deal. So those are the things you want to always look at your market. If it's mosquito spraying and you're in an area that doesn't have mosquitoes, or it's cold and your market is only like I'm in New Jersey, so mosquito spraying is maybe 7 or 8 months a year, if that. So
Most, yeah.
are you okay? What are you doing in the off season? Well, most of them are doing Christmas lights and holiday decorations, but you want to look at that. Some people love it. I have a guy, I remember 8 months a year he wanted to work, and in 3 4 months he had a home in Costa Rica. He just said, I'm out, and it's a lifestyle business. So again, it's not what's the best option, it's what's the fit for you.
Right.
There's no correlation, and I'll repeat that, no correlation between the investment and your returns. $1 million franchise can yield you the same amount as $100,000 to all
Yep.
in investment. Sustainability is key. I don't care how much you made your first year; it's irrelevant. What did you make your second year? Is there growth? Are you able to run this business, or are you just getting burnt out because the franchise or the business is a revolving door of staff and employees? So, what is sustainable? What's gonna be that vehicle, that franchise that you can absolutely grow and stay with for just say 5 to 20 years, depending on the franchise agreement, that you can obviously renew, potentially sell. So figure out the match, and the returns will come. But yeah, you don't have to spend millions of dollars to earn a good living. You can spend a fraction of that on a franchise.
Yeah, really important to understand that because I think people do get a little too caught up in the numbers. More is more, not
Correct.
necessarily.
Yeah, and
Okay,
it's
so
not. Yeah, right, right.
it's
It doesn't make a difference.
we,
It's
we
it's
always
it,
yeah, I
it's
said we always just tell people it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
right. At the end of the day,
Okay.
that's absolutely it. And if
Always-
your business is business coaching, to your franchise, well, there's no equipment. There's not even an office. If it's a gym, Pilates, rowing, treadmills, yeah, that's why. And you got to build that. You got to
Yeah,
outfit 2,000 square feet. So
yeah, it's really something. It's that one of my favorite sayings I learned from a mentor of mine too long ago.
mhm.
Revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like
Like
that.
we gotta remember that. It's a
I like
big thing
that.
that we really focus on with all business. I'm doing a lot with higher end manufacturing stuff now. Same principle. It crosses all industries,
Hmm.
but everyone, if you're getting into business, I think that's one of those things you've really don't get starstruck by the revenue number. Get starstruck by the profit margin. And I'm talking the RNP, the real net profit. What are they really taking
Hmm.
home? Not the gross profit. What's the net profit? Like you got to go looking at those numbers on average. What are people making? Or in your business, that's the number you need to focus on. Because it ruins a lot of people because they're chasing that front number.
Their trait, yeah.
And
I, I
it's the wrong scoreboard.
it's a wrong score exactly, because if you're in the cleaning business, your margins are going to be less, but you have to look at the AUV, the average unit volume, what you're bringing in. But ultimately, it boils down to what exactly you said. What does the average franchisee make per location and or per territory? And if my goal is to make $1 million and a year eventually, and they're averaging 250,000 in profit each, you may look at 3 or 4 locations long run. So again, it could be less, it could be more, but just as a baseline, there's no guarantee, but you can work off those averages. But you're right. That's Look at what at the end of the day, what is that franchisee making? What's their hourly commitment to the business? You got to make sure everything matches up. Some businesses that are getting it to 7 figures. If that's you can't get approved for it, you're not comfortable with it, don't start there. Look at
Right.
other things within your means. You could buy a painting franchise and then open up a gym as your second
Right.
franchise. It makes no difference. There
Right.
doesn't have to be any similarities. So
That's right. That's awesome. Yeah, I think we've hit a lot of points, Giuseppe, in this, which I love because I think for someone considering this, they can see now there's a lot of things to consider.
a
Okay, it's
lot,
not
yeah.
not whether they have the money or what. Even if you got the money, you don't have the money. Something smaller, something larger, whatever. You've hit a lot of good stuff, and I love it. I'm totally on in alignment here with you. So I think you're bringing great stuff to the market. So how can people get in touch with you, follow you? You know what I mean. Work with you. talk about franchises, whatever you got going on. Let's share that with them.
Yeah, so best place is my website. It's GG, my initials, the franchise guide, GUIDE, so GG, the franchise guide. Couple things. You can book a call directly with me, top right-hand side of the website, and it's 20 minutes. It's called a right fit call, figuring out if franchising could be the right fit. Sometimes it is, but the timing is off or the money isn't there. It's okay. We put together a custom plan specifically for your situation. Best part of all this, the service is completely free to you. We're paid like a real estate agent or an executive recruiter. Never a cost, no contracts. If you're not ready to chat, and that's going to be the quickest way, right, to figure out, because if franchising isn't the best fit, then we don't have to look at brands to start. If you're not ready, I wrote a book. It's my exact blueprint, Franchise Freedom. It's a quick 30-minute read. It's my exact process blueprint. I get into the psychology, letting the family know what you're doing, that kind of stuff, funding options. We cover all that. It's a free download on the website. You can buy it for a few bucks on Amazon. And then finally, my podcast, again, right on that website, Franchise Freedom, same title. We kept it original. And we have about 260 plus episodes covering any topic. You just type in a phrase, exit strategy. It's one of our most popular searches. And we have a conversation with David C. Barnett, good friend of mine, former business broker, talks about how to exit a franchise, how to exit a business and evaluate. And we talk about the hours and your role and the things we talked about in the beginning of the show. So, but ggthefranchiseguide.com, all the resources are there. You could book a call. You can send me that message. Or if you're not ready, download the book. I'm always available. And if it is, potentially a good fit, our next steps would be, let's figure out what this ideal business looks like from the very beginning. And then we go to work to see what brands match that franchise model and what's available in your market. So very simple approach. And then we guide you through the research that you're going to be doing in order to find that right franchise and introduce you to the brands as well as the funding companies.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yes, so good. Giuseppe, this has just been a ton of good stuff. And that's always powerful. I love you got a podcast, because that is another first step. When people are thinking about getting into business, you need to go listen to business podcasts like yours, like Sharpen the Spear and these other ones, because guys like you with experience, guys like me and everyone, all my other guests, I mean, we're dropping a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, a lot of tips that you can pull from this. It costs you nothing. Okay. Take a little bit of time to get your ducks in a row for this. Talk to guys like Giuseppe to really understand, because I want people to succeed in business. I love people who start businesses. I want them all to succeed. There's no one I want to fail. It's like my favorite thing. I do it when I coach my clients. I love to see them succeed, love to see them grow and expand, get their time back, right? Go like you said, see every kid's game, every kid's recital, whatever they are, have that time freedom. That's a huge thing. If you don't think it is right now, you will later. You might just be young, and God bless you. Okay. I didn't care about time. I wouldn't even take a vacation. Okay. So
it changes.
It changes. Now I got 6 kids and I want to fly here, fly there, do this stuff. So it's a different thing. So you want to build a business that's truly going to serve you. And I think the franchise industry is one of those that you can have, probably has the highest upside of achieving that goal in the shortest amount of time. Right.
Yep. It's fast. We call in the book the unfair advantage. You can actually sign a franchise agreement, and assuming you have funding, you can launch. This is not the norm, but 2 to 4 weeks. We have brands launching. We'll call it a month, but I would say non brick and mortar 3 months or less. It's pretty amazing how quickly you can get launched. And when you pay that fee, you get 100% access to the system. It's not like you get a portion of it. Right. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. So everybody, get in touch with Giuseppe. Go down this road, start seeing if you're even a fit. But what a great thing to consider. And Giuseppe, I appreciate all the time today. This has been absolutely fantastic. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good help. So we will, again, appreciate you being on. And for everyone else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Sharpen the Spear podcast. If you're a manufacturing executive and you're serious about unlocking hidden profit, improving frontline leadership, and taking control of your floor, go to grit2lead.com right now. Run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator and discover your biggest opportunities are hiding. Don't leave millions on the table. Sharpen your spear, lead from the front, and win the floor. Until next time, stay sharp.